What is going on, everyone? Badger here. Should have liked and sub, and let's get into this. I was actually supposed to be on Open Bar tonight, if you're watching this on a Thursday, to talk about the first two episodes. But would you believe that the demand for content creators to talk on Open Bar about Acolyte and how bad it is pretty staggering. So Critical Drinker politely asked if it was possible if I come on next week to talk about the third episode, which is actually what I wanted the whole time, because if you've been paying attention, you know that the third episode is the one where the pronouns and the possible lesbian regal witches force immaculate conception happens. So yeah. I'm more than happy to go on Open Bar at any point, but certainly Open Bar next week to talk about the third episode. So if you thought you were going to see me on there tonight, don't be worried. Nothing nefarious happened. I will be on next week's Open Bar, but I'm still going to get my fix in of hearing what Drinker thinks of the first two episodes by doing a Badger Reacts to his review of the first episode. And he said for his own personal health, he has to break this down into episode reviews instead of doing the whole series. And I understand. So let's go.
Another day, another chance to witness the horrific spectacle of Disney prodding and kicking the bloated corpse of Star Wars in the desperate hope that it'll let out a burst of flatulent gas which they can pretend is a sign of life. In this case, our latest desperate prod of the corpse is The Acolyte, possibly the most unanticipated and unwanted Lucasfilm project since Willow.
And it's funny, because it's been greenlit forever and been coming forever. Before we actually found out who was doing it and it was going to be female centric and blah, 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 blah. When we just heard it was going to focus on the dark side and the Sith, I thought it sounded awesome. And then we found out, Leslie Headland, personal assistant to Harvey Weinstein.
A spin-off from the disastrous High Republic books that nobody read.
Read the first book, didn't read any more.
Starring a bunch of characters nobody cares about, played by actors that nobody's heard of, and helmed by a woman that nobody seems to like. Really, what can I say about The Acolyte that would make you want to watch it?
This is, I would say, arguably the gayest Star Wars. I think considerable.
Getting all of what they wanted, and as pointed out, it has major Doctor Who energy of like, oh, they fucking hate you. They hate you.
Anyway, now that I've seen the first two episodes, I'm at least in some position to assess the show's merits. And believe me, this shouldn't take long. The first episode opens with strong female antagonists challenging strong female Jedi to a fight in a bar.
Attack me with all your strength.
And I must admit, it was nice to see Carrie-Anne Moss back in action, and never mind.
Yeah, and also, obviously, Jedi need to die for it to be a murder mystery about Jedi being killed, and we knew, that this was probably going to happen. She comes back in a flashback. She was bland AF. She's a great actress, and she probably didn't have much to work with, but yeah. Not much missed, unfortunately.
It's interesting that characters can survive lightsaber injuries like this, but a small throwing knife to the chest is enough to take them down and end their lives. Bullshit! Shows how much I know about human anatomy, I guess. Flash over to the other side of the galaxy, and we're introduced to strong female character number 1.
And the cute little robot that will be sold, and no one will buy it, but the cute little robot that we now need to have with every single protagonist.
Strong female character number 1 is a plucky young woman with a knack for technology who's also strong with the Force.
Nemoidians sound white now, by the way. Instead of the talking like this, like they used to, they sound white.
Where have I seen this before? Anyway, she works as a mechanic, mechanic.
You serious?
On the outer hulls of...
Never was called mechanic, it was always called mechanic. Yeah.
Space freighters, doing the usual stuff like repairing power couplings and putting out fires? Sure, yeah, okay. I guess fire in The Acolyte doesn't need oxygen like in other shows because it no longer has the patriarchy holding it back.
Also obligatory, the Trade Federation doesn't use human mechanics. That's what droids are for.
You go, girl fire. Things are going great for her until she gets arrested by dumb male character and strong female character number 2 for the murder of strong female Jedi. See, it turns out that strong female character number 1 and strong female antagonist are actually twin sisters, and so naturally people mix them up after the murder of strong female Jedi. And what is all of this based on, you might ask? Why, the eyewitness testimony of the bartender where strong female Jedi got killed.
By the way, holo cameras exist, just like we have security footage. It's a galaxy with 30,000 years worth of history. They have the technology of holo cameras, so yeah.
Not DNA samples, which actually would have made more sense since they're twins. Not hologram recordings or security footage. Just a guy who saw a young woman kill strong female Jedi. Now, you probably don't need me to tell you that eyewitness testimonies can be notoriously inaccurate, especially in highly stressful situations where our brains release all kinds of chemicals and stimulants to try to keep us alive. Chemicals which often cloud our judgment and blur our memory, making us not particularly reliable when it comes to accurate recollection of people and events. I mean, given that he's an alien, I'd have to assume as well that his description of the suspect would probably have boiled down to a young black human female with her hair in braids. Now, in a galaxy composed of thousands of colonized planets, there'd have to be literally billions of people who fit that description.
Also, Master Indara, based on story elements that they tell you and then flashbacks we're going to see, would have recognized May, second strong female boss that was attacking her, would have recognized her both on her Force essence, which she would have remembered from Brandok, and yeah, several different reasons. But
yeah, apparently this was enough to bring them straight to strong female character number 1. Like, how? Also, you might assume that being on the other side of the galaxy at the time of the murder, with multiple witnesses to prove you were there and no means of traveling to and from the site of the killing, would be a pretty strong alibi, but not according to dumb
Lord Vandar. That's the dude that said, you remember when Anakin destroyed the Death Star? Honestly, I didn't hate the character. I mean, the actor is a dummy and should have fucking done more research, but I didn't mind the character.
Male character, at least. Oh yeah, and in case you were wondering what his role in the story is, it's to be consistently wrong about everything to make the various strong female characters look better by comparison. Anyway, they decide to ship.
But he was right on a couple of moments. He did some things. It was there. It was there. It was at least something. I guess I'm grasping.
Strong female character number 1 back to Coruscant to answer for her crimes. Now, you might think it would make sense to just take her back on their own ship, because why wouldn't you do that, right? You're there with her already, and there's 2 of you, so you could keep an eye on her and make sure that she doesn't try to escape. Because if she really is responsible for killing a Jedi, despite all the evidence pointing against it, then clearly she's smart, resourceful, and powerful. You don't want to take any chances with this one, lads. Or you could put her on a rank.
And I get it. Everyone's checked out. But also the context of this is Lord was a Padawan with Osha here. Osha is the Padawan to Master Saul. He's the Asian Jedi, basically, from Squid Games. But she flunked out. And that's why she's working on as a mechanic. So they have a weird dynamic of like Yord technically knows her, and that's why he's sort of. But the second she makes a move, he grabs for his lightsaber, which is dumb because he would have been able to sense if she was actually making a violent move against him or not. But I digress. Let's be correct about what we're shitting on them for, because there's a lot to shit on them for. But there was some stuff that was at least passable.
Regular old prison transport with minimal security and just assume that everything's going to work out fine.
Hey, Kung Fu Powder. But again, bar real low. When Alan Ng said that she's better than Dave Filoni, Leslie Headland is better than Dave Filoni, that's not saying much. That is not saying much.
And wouldn't you know it, within about 2 minutes, the other convicts stage a prison break, overpower the one and only guard droid on board, and leave her alone to crash land on the planet. Which she survives because an uncontrolled crash from orbital velocity is definitely the sort of thing you can walk away from. Anyway, back...
It's big spaceship. Big spaceship.
Back on Coruscant, we're introduced to Squid Game Guy, who receives word from strong female character number 3.
That's Leslie Headland's wife, by the way.
That strong female character number 1's ship has crashed. They know this because they picked up the escaped prisoners from the escape pod, but they haven't gotten around to investigating the crash site yet, and are thinking about sending out probe droids to take a...
And no word if this Venestra Rowe, she sure acts like the boss bitch, but no word if she's the acting Grand Jedi Master, because it's only 100 years before Phantom Menace. Yoda would be the Grand Jedi Master of the Temple at the time. The one High Republic book I read, though, Yoda was on a sabbatical somewhere, so he wasn't even in the story. So I don't know if they're still going with that. Maybe Yoda went on sabbatical for like a decade plus. I don't know.
Okay, back up a second, because I really want to go over this one. If you recovered these prisoners from the escape pod and brought them all the way back to Coruscant, that must mean that you already had at least one Republic ship in orbit around the planet to recover the escape pod in the first place. So you're telling me that instead of investigating the crash site for survivors, which would have been on the planet directly below, you instead brought the prisoners all the way back to Republic headquarters and then asked for instruction?
And then my headcanon for that is they just had a local Republic Corvette, or maybe even someone, something along those lines, just pick it up in orbit and then Coruscant's a hyperdrive jump away, as opposed to assembling a fucking search team to an unknown planet, dubious as to whether, as you pointed out, you would even survive something like that. In fact, they assume she's dead because a crash from high orbit probably not likely to survive. So, come on.
So, like, are you retarded or what?
And yes, I would have said this to him, but don't worry. Episode 3 next week. Better open bar episode to be on, trust me.
Also, if strong female character number 3 looks familiar to you, you might recognize her as showrunner Leslie Headland's wife. I'm sure that had absolutely nothing to do with her casting in this show, just like James Gunn doesn't let family connections influence his casting choices either. Anyway,
I mean, Jesus, at least he has some shit.
Squid Game guy decides that he wants to take a look at the site for himself because strong female character number 1 was his Padawan once upon a time. So he rounds up dumb male character and
Jecki, Daphne Keen, and yeah, she's got a dynamic with Yord that is I like, but I don't like, and I guess we'll get to it at the time.
Strong female character number 2 and heads off to the crash site to investigate, and almost immediately runs.
And she basically calls she goes like, "Why do you have a picture of your old apprentice? Like, if I may ask." And because attachment is forbidden, so it's gonna make you have some emotions. And Master Saul basically gives her a line about, well, if we ignore the past, if we don't meditate on the past, we're doomed to. So there was no kill the past if you have to. He did mention it, but you can tell he has attachments. He has feelings about his former Padawan. And if anything of the whole show, like the most interesting shit to me, if like someone talented and without agenda, like forcing every decision-making thing, would be the idea of what happens to a Jedi who they end up in the gardening corps of the Jedi, but what happens to a Jedi when they don't make it, when they fail being a Padawan? And what happens to the Master? How does the Master reconcile his failure, or was the Padawan's failure? Was it the will of the Force? Anyway, they probably won't be delving or making it that interesting.
Into her after ripping off a scene from The Fugitive. Then he explains that
it was an homage.
Strong female antagonist is definitely dead because he saw her die in a fire when she was a kid. So strong female character number 1 is the only person who could possibly have committed this crime. But then strong female character number 1 is like, I didn't do it. Trust me, bro. And he's like, well, I'm convinced.
Yeah, he did change his mind really quickly. I was like, but you were so convinced that you saw, like, they saw, the whole line is that they saw May die in a fire that she started. That's where the 4 Jedi that are being moitered come from. They were all on that planet Brandok with the twins when they say May started the fire, which got her, Osha and May's mothers, plural, killed. And I'm pretty sure one of their mothers is...
Yes.
And so the other one is, well, probably that Sith behind the mask in the vocoder.
Fuck me, you're easy to win over, aren't you? It's good to see that a Jedi Knight won't listen to evidence, logic, or reason, but a single unverified claim by a woman with absolutely no reason to be truthful is enough to totally change his perspective. Like, I'm very much in the camp that rational evidence would be enough to exonerate her in this case, but if you're not even willing to listen to that, and are still convinced that her twin sister died because you apparently saw it happen, then what other conclusion can you draw here? Here's a crazy idea. How about you do that forced mind reading thing that you did earlier with one of the escaped prisoners?
Yeah, and that is, it's like surface level thoughts. Excuse me, I'm gonna redo that. That was weird. Yeah, it's like surface level thoughts only. It wasn't, I saw Robert Meyer Burnett really call it like a forced mind grapey. The only forced mind grapes we've ever seen is what Kylo Ren did to Rey. That is a full-on breaking through all barriers. What you saw here, done a couple to the prisoner, which first was calming his mind, not the guy that took the escape pod from her. Master Soul just calmed his mind. It's no different than what we saw Qui-Gon do to Jar Jar. In the beginning, Yord, when he puts his hand up like this, he's not doing anything. It's the threat. Now, granted, he used the threat of power, which you would questionable for a Jedi, but everything else was surface. Even when Master Soul is fighting May, he says, oh, your thoughts go to your sister. It's no different than Vader reading the surface levels of Luke's thoughts.
listeners, that would clear up everything pretty quickly. Either she would open her mind to you and you'd be able to tell if she was innocent or guilty, or if she tried to block you, it would be a pretty...
But also, truth. Yes. He should have been like, let me see, like, open your mind. Yes, 100%. Now, granted, they probably have some sort of residual bond as master and apprentice. He can probably feel it. And that's why he so quickly believed her. You could just, like a Matt Murdock, you could tell she's not lying.
Pretty strong indication that she was trying to cover up her own guilt. But nah, one quick conversation's enough to change his mind, I guess.
And again, in that scene right there, it's almost like he was lying to himself, because if she was alive, he makes a whole thing if he tried to save both of them. So if she's still alive, that means he failed. And he's probably been telling himself all this time, no, there's nothing I do. She died. So
meanwhile, strong female antagonist goes for a walk on a beach and meets up with Discount Venom, who delivers what may be one of the most nonsensical monologues
painful, and it literally made no sense
in the entire show.
Steel or laser are no threat to them.
She literally did kill a Jedi with a fucking blade less than 30 minutes ago. Like, do these people even read their own script?
And lightsabers, even if you try and take it that he means like direct attacks, it's like...
Do they even think about what they're writing? Then he ignites a red lightsaber for no other reason than because they want you to know that he's a Sith, and that's it. That's episode 1 over.
And he says I'm convinced that Sith, the master, is a she, and the vocoder is just it's a female with the trust me, the frame that's going to be their mom, so they can get the I am your mother fucking rip-off scene, guaranteed.
What a completely retarded mess this show is.
Kill her. That's Ryan Kinnell, and they made him a neckbeard, balding, horrible makeup.
It's built around literally the simplest by-the-numbers murder mystery plot, complete with twin sister femme fatale tropes and everything, and somehow still finds a way to fuck it up. And it's all held together by insane coincidences, ridiculous contrivances, and decisions that run contrary to logic and common sense. Andor showed us how a murder investigation can be conducted in a smart, gripping, tension-building way, with a combination of deductive logic, interesting character moments, and explosive bursts of gritty action.
Except no one gives a shit about Diego Luna, and it was boring as fuck for a lot of it, and even during the action, I wasn't engaged. I'm sorry it was shot well. I know you love it, Mahler. Yeah, I would have said that to him too. I guess I will next Thursday. God, it's never going to be what you want it to be. I wish half of the things had been shot with the amount of lore and production quality that Andor got.
You get the feeling they were trying real hard to emulate that tone and feel in this show. The only things they're missing are brains, creativity, imagination, and writing skill.
And no, I don't get the idea that they were trying to emulate Andor. I get the idea they were trying to emulate the prequels. There's plenty of screen wipes and the music cues. And I thought she was trying to get all the sauce she could out of the prequels.
And that's not the only problems at play here either. The acting is terrible, the fight choreography is weak, nobody looks like they actually want to be here, and the pacing is god-awful. The episode could probably have been wrapped up in under 20 minutes without all the pointless time-wasting travel backwards and forwards and redundant conversations telling us stuff we just...
Yeah, like that. It was more like I would say he was procrastinating, but either way, and so you're just like,
saw happen. We're only 1 episode in so far, and I can already see how they're having to stretch the paper-thin plot to try to spin it out into 8 episodes. This show might aspire to be something like Andor, but it's more like Book of Boba Fett. And believe me, it only gets worse with episode 2, but I'm going to have to cover that in a separate video because I don't think my mind or my liver can handle too much of this stuff all at once. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Well, one thing is clear is I'm definitely at least finding some things, probably because I'm so fucking much of a Star Wars nerd fan that even though I hate everything to do with Disney, if you just give me something that for one moment, much like Luke, I can find one little thing to redeem and bring back and make good, then I in my head, I'll be able to. And yes, so I like some of the things, even though if I know ultimately this is going to be beyond. And I'm saying that now when that 3rd episode comes out, and we get Immaculate Conception with the Space Witches, and it invalidates Anakin's chosen one. Yeah. All my niceness will probably go away. But for now, and for my blood pressure's sake, I'm gonna give best interpretations where I can until I don't. And anyway, so yeah, don't worry if you don't see me on Open Bar tonight. You will see me on next week's where we talk about episode 3. Holy hell. Anyway, go away now.
Well, Bye.